Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or whenever you are watching that video. But I think they three cover all bases. So yeah, we'll carry on.
Day.
Welcome to Lost the Plot and our first ever video dedicated to film and reviewing. For those that don't know, we've already recorded one video which introduced us and Matt's fetishes, but you can watch that in your own time when you feel like it. Alright? How are we feeling, boys?
Alright. Good.
Yeah, excited.
Nice.
Mainly to hear from you.
Yes. Disclaimer. So what we're about to say to each other we've not talked about before at all. So the reactions are genuine. What you're about to see is genuine, and we've not discussed any of this beforehand. We thought we'd do that because it adds a more realistic take to things, so it's not scripted and we're not like a newsreader report show, things like that.
More natural.
Yeah, more natural is probably.
I mean, we're halfway to the newsreader.
Yeah, we are, but these are our notes, so we look like we know what we're doing for those that pick up on
it.
this.
It doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. It's my shopping list for tomorrow. So, there is a lot of excitement here because this is our first video. This is our brainchild that we've sort of brought together over the last month or couple months or so, and we're excited to deliver this video to you. And we're going to start this video as we mean to start every other single video that we're going to produce and release, which is with James's unpopular opinion.
Yeah, let's start on a high, as always.
Yes.
You're going to love this one. I'm going to say.
I'm sort of worried where the direction's going to go.
Well, if you like the last one, you're going to love this one then. Bacon's overrated. Just flat out. It's alright.
You won't like
I get it.
You won't like it.
Right? But, like, there's nothing to it really, it's just salt, innit? Salty pig, that's all it is. Nothing much more to it.
Oh, Ben, what do you think?
Oh, I strongly disagree with it. Bacon's tremendous. I can't go into the nuances of bacon, but
I love bacon.
why do you love it though?
I don't know, it just
Tastes nice.
amazing.
Yeah.
And the fat on it as well, I really like the fat, does it?
Exactly, and its powers to change the minds of vegetarians.
This is true. I know many of people that have changed from being vegetarian
I
because
mean,
of
I've not
bacon.
even got like if you can be vegetarian, vegan, any sort of like diet choice. It's actually a choice, not a demand of some sort of condition you've got. Fair enough, because it takes way more patience than I've got. But I just know I'm never going to be able to commit to that. I'm
Yeah.
never going to have the patience.
Do you never get up in the morning and just feel like a bacon sandwich for breakfast? Or?
No, it's not ever one of like, it's not in my top 5 things that I'd probably go for. No.
What
it's
is your
just
number
one
one out of curiosity?
I mean, you're talking meats now, aren't you? You've got
Well,
No, not meat. I'm just breakfast option.
breakfast.
Proper tangent.
I'm not really even a breakfast guy. I'm actually thinking about
That's
it.
why he
Cheers.
doesn't want bacon in the morning because he's not
Yeah.
up for the breakfast.
first, and it's
Give me a cup of tea, I'm sorted. That's it. That's my breakfast of choice. Just tea. Give me a tea, I'm happy.
Right, again, if you find yourself watching this video, apologies, but it is James's unpopular opinion.
Deal with it.
Yeah,
Alright.
These aren't going to have to.
I was going to say, every video we've got to listen to James, so
Yeah.
so have you. Right, on to the juicy stuff. Well, I say the juicy stuff, I mean,
I've already covered that.
yeah, no, we can stop that now.
Worse than that.
But as the title suggests, this video is going to be our review of 2021. We haven't watched every single film and we're not claiming to be professionals, so don't judge us for it. This is again our opinion, our views, and we wanted to film it and share it with people, okay? So this is going to be a free-flowing discussion, so I apologise if this video does last about 24 hours long, but we like film, we like to talk about film, so it's probably going to be a fairly decent size. Right, we're going to cover, firstly, our best film and worst film of 2021, just to sort of cover our bases and our main topics, and then we'll talk about all the others that we've watched and seen throughout the year. So, I've given him notice this time, so he should know it's going to come to him.
Yeah.
We're going to start with Matthew. What did you like in 2021?
Well, Ben, I don't know how many of you have seen this film. I know Ben has, but I'm not sure whether you two have because it didn't release.
Not seen much this year.
It
and
didn't
it's
release
annoyed
in
me.
cinemas. It released on streaming platform,
Oh, right.
and it's Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh my god, I've completely forgot about that as a film.
It wasn't even on the radar.
No.
Yeah.
That came out this year?
No, last year.
Oh, sorry, 2021.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was quite a big thing,
It was-
to be fair.
Yeah, I know. I remember talking to Matt about it. Sorry,
Yeah.
carry on, Matt. I'm in disbelief now.
Because I'm a big DC guy as well as Marvel and pretty much all nerdy stuff. But the fact that the first one that they released in cinemas, the Joss Whedon one, was so bad.
That's a polite word for
I
it.
hated it, and I just couldn't believe that was what their first Justice League movie ever was. And watching this, I didn't think there was going to be much difference because they've gone off a lot of what Zack Snyder originally did with what he wanted to do with the plot of the story, kind of. But the amount they left out and changed and cut is just ridiculous. Like, it's a completely different film.
Yeah, and
No.
I feel like with the first one, they tried to go a lot lighter tone and try and match Marvel's.
Yeah.
We've had discussions about Batman vs Superman and how that is actually a really good film because of how dark it is. It feels like Zack Snyder wanted to follow that on with Justice League, but then they've gone, oh, it's a superhero film, we can't be that dark.
Yeah, but even
Basically, they've not just took it for what it is, which I'm guessing is sort of what they've gone with the whole Zack Snyder's version and just embraced it a bit more.
his own vision, he gets to do what he wants with it more than someone else coming in and changing out someone else's original. It's never going to be what they want from the film, so it's not going to work. There is humour in the film. It just feels more natural, and it comes at moments that are suitable for humour, like not stupid
forced.
moments.
Oh,
I
it's
was
not
saying
full
this
of
about-
like numerous films that were released last year.
And I think of like
Venom.
and that's a good example. I mean, again, I've avoided that like the plague. But when you've got like a dark theme, that's and it gets sort of used as like a cliche or a trope that people just think have just got to this point now where they just think, oh, if you're going to make a good superhero film, and that just means a film that's about superheroes but it's actually a good film, they have to go down a dark route. But that's just because of things like the Dark Knight trilogy, where it's just took over everyone's mind.
Well, that
and they
for
just
me,
assume that is the key. So it's basically got to this point where it's like you've either got to be dark and serious, or it's got to be funny and stupid and not being taken seriously. So then when the actual success of that, I think, is when you've got a successful dark story that is heavy as you like it. It doesn't have to be superheroes or anything, but when it is, then you bring in that humour. It lands so much more realistic because it's just actually how things naturally are.
things with superhero films as well, I feel like Marvel are responsible for this. Don't get me wrong, I love Marvel more than anything, but the way in which they produce films, they're always light-hearted and always or supposed to involve a lot of humour, and I feel like other people look at those films and go, oh, well, that's successful, so we've got to do that as well.
Yeah.
And I think in the case of Justice League, that's exactly what they've done.
It falls flat because the tone of the film and the characters are just different, and they're going. It's a world-ending like event. Then it just doesn't really fit that the Flash is making jokes left, right, and centre when there's such high stakes involved. And I don't know. I know they do that in Marvel a little bit, but it feels more in place to what's going on.
Yeah.
And the consistency with what they've laid out before, whereas what it sounds like with Justice League, because again, they didn't actually clarify that I hadn't seen them. It seems like the main problem was the fact that the actual leader, whether you liked it or not, you could be happy with the consistency of it, because obviously I feel like it's like Man of Steel was that starting point of feeling like the direction that it's going to go in.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's his trilogy by the sounds of it, from
It
what I'm
runs off his
gathering.
trilogy.
It's like
So
this
much
whole
nice.
story of
Nice.
it. Yes, it's about. I think that's what's great about that, by the sounds of it again, is that it brings in all of that, but still successfully tells his story from start to finish, if you like.
Yeah. It just has such a world building film, because I don't know, it just has the opportunity to lead on to so much more, but it feels wasted now because they're going with what they put out in cinema as canon, and I don't know, it feels like they made a massive mistake not letting him finish the film.
Am I right in thinking as well that the one that was released that was Zack Snyder's version, there's parts in that are supposed to be for a second film and a third film as well?
He wanted to do another couple Justice League films to complete the story arc that he was going with. Because, I just feel so wasted now that watching it, because you just know it's not going to happen the way he wanted it.
That, and it feels like it's not going to happen again. Because even though Wonder Woman was released afterwards, is there any more talk of another DC film that's in the limelight?
Supposedly they're going to redo the universe with the Flash film.
I sort of think about that earlier actually.
But I don't know how that's going to work or not, because I know Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill aren't supposedly coming back.
Well, haven't they?
Ben Affleck is coming back in the Flash film, but he's not in talks to do any more.
No.
And again, I think the cheap part of it is it sounds like, it would be good for the fans of, say, the Snyder Cut, where they say, okay, this was clearly successful, let's go with this. Even if it's on that pure money grabbing aspect of this actually landed really well, we don't have to necessarily bring him back. If that's an actual problem, I don't know. Because that's a whole other issue with like directors and how you get those odd occurrences of like, oh, this production went sideways, and you hear a little bit from them every now and then, but you never hear the full story.
No, a lot of it seems to be down to creative freedom.
Yeah.
Like James Gunn with Guardians of the Galaxy.
And
There was a lot of, well, this is what we want to do.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that. I think it's very similar to Zack
So
Snyder's
for future
one.
reference, it's another video, because that's going to go off on terms of that sort of like dilemma. But I think even if they go down that route and follow that, it will still feel like all they're doing it for is because it had a big reaction. It's not because they wanted to stick to it originally.
Film, though. It
is.
It tells it in a different way to the original one, and sets the future films up differently. But it just feels like it's what he originally wanted to do. The characters are just really fleshed out in this one, whereas the other ones they're introduced in the film. So they didn't. Obviously, he's got the advantage of having it being 4 hours or whatever it is. The characters in the original didn't get the chance to They just thought they were thrown in, and you didn't really connect with any of them, and they didn't feel good as a team or anything like that. But in this one, it comes naturally. They all come together for a reason.
Well, I was going to say that the characters are more developed.
Yeah.
You build a relationship with them. You understand them in this one, Zack Snyder's version, than the first one, because like Matt said, they are just, the first one seems like they've got, oh right, DC, we do have Cyborg, we do have Aquaman, and we do have the Flash as well, but we're not going to tell you anything about them because they're already characters in their own
They
right.
just kind of show up.
We're just going to put them in a film and expect people to enjoy it, and as we're seeing with other films like the Eternals, it doesn't really work very well, does it? Nice. Worst film?
This is easily the worst film I saw last year. Venom: Let There Be Carnage.
I was forgetting what the actual name was. I just kept referring to Venom 2.
To just wipe it from your memory is probably a good shout.
That's where I was getting with
Yeah.
it. But
There's a lot wrong with that.
Shall we tag team on this one because it's my worst film as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So just to clarify, this is my worst film of 2021 as well. And to be honest, it probably would be James and Tom's if they'd watched it. But
I'll admit,
after watching the first one, we swore we weren't going to spend any more money on anything to do with the Venom franchise. Because what's the point?
And it got worse than the first one.
I imagine that.
Somehow.
you can start.
Oh, okay.
We'll just fire off all that we've got. Actually, hang on. Let me get my notes out ready for it. Go on.
What I actually didn't mind about the first one was that Venom's humour wasn't constant in like it is in the second one. Like he just makes quip after quip after quip after quip, and none of them land. Like
Draining.
I think one maybe landed with me. I don't know about you, but out of the 50, he did.
Was it the one towards the end to do with the partner of Eddie Brock?
The partner. Oh yeah.
I think that was the only one that I sort of giggled at.
Yeah.
I think we both giggled at it. But yeah.
It feels so out of place for the film. I don't know. I just think Venom's more of a dark character, and I just hate that he's trying to be funny all the time.
Well, with the first one, his humour came from him being naive. So it wasn't him trying to be purposely be funny. It was comments made about the human world that he didn't understand. Whereas in this one, I don't know how far along the line it is, but he knows everything there is to know now.
He thinks he's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, literally. And you've got dialogue between Woody Harrelson, whose character's a bit strange and a bit random anyway, and Tom Hardy, two fantastic actors. Let them talk. And instead you've got Venom making stupid one-line remarks and just talking over them. And then it's Eddie Brock's character talking to Venom whilst he's trying to talk to Cletus. And you think, no, this is annoying more than anything, I think.
And then
really
there's this whole side plot where Venom goes off on his own. I don't see any relevance to that at all. It's just time filler.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know.
Do you know what? I've seen a lot of people like it and enjoy that. Because I looked at a few reviews thinking, I wonder what the general consensus is.
I want you to tell me more about it, and I'm just like, I've got to watch it now.
You can watch it for how bad it is, you'll laugh.
Yeah.
As Matt says,
not out of just how bad it is.
Christ, the production of it. The part where he goes off on his own is horrendous. And it holds no value to the film because they end up getting back together anyway.
Well,
So you're there like, alright, you've had an argument, like they've staged it basically like a relationship between a couple, and then it's just very cheesy. It's more like a rom-com. This film's more like a rom-com than it is an action. I've just thought of it because you've got Cletus and Shriek, you've got Venom and Eddie, and then you've got Eddie and his ex-missus, and then you've got his ex-missus and her husband-to-be. So there's the. I didn't even think that. Yeah, it's more like a rom-com than it is.
The thing with you saying that, like, that would have been a fine way to frame a movie, but it comes back more to what we were saying a minute ago about a dark movie like that. So like, I can't even describe it like that, but like a Venom movie, the first one, he should have been eating people. They could have pushed the boundaries of where that went, and then they bring in a serial killer. That is carnage. How is it not? And then, but even then, pulling it back to the actors, you just put those two actors together, just let them do something.
Yeah, 100%.
Even if it's just improvised, they'll come up with something magic.
Yeah.
But I quite enjoyed Cletus, Woody Harrelson's character, in the sense that it was wacky, but it was random. It was really, really random. They just introduced the serial killer from nowhere to talk to Eddie Brock. And then he bit his hand and became.
Yeah, I thought the
carnage.
Yeah, I don't know. They started off so well as well because I love the. Does it show? He shows him as a child, doesn't it, to start off with Cletus?
Yeah, and his relationship with Shriek.
And how that builds up, and then I quite like that. And then his dialogue with Eddie Brock I quite like, but he doesn't. There's no plan or anything of how he becomes carnage. It just sort of happens. And it shows he's just winging it, and there's nothing really about this film. They need more action. The action in the last sequence is decent action, but they don't do it enough. There's barely any action for a Venom film.
Thing is with the action sequence, if you take that out and put that in any film, it'd be enjoyable because the action sequence was amazing. It's the characters you don't care about in the action sequence because they don't build that character. There's no character development there. It's just okay. A bit like Justice League, we just said. There's a bunch of characters. Yeah. Here it is. There you go. Blah, blah. This is Venom. When Venom's actually supposed to be a really dark, sinister character, whereas in this he's basically Peter Kay.
But either way, I think if you build that,
a rip-off.
If you build that character and then you throw in. It can be the stupidest action scene or something, but if that's the kind of film it is, if you've got that backing behind it, that lands. But if you've just got that, all it is just going to be this just stupid, flashy sequence that's just going to be like over and done with, and then once it's gone, you don't care about it.
Yeah. I don't know about you, anything else? So I've got one last thing to mention.
Go for it.
The end credit scene.
Right.
Shit. And we'll get that onto the next video. But it's pointless, it's irrelevant, no one cares, doesn't make any sense. That's all we need to say on that, really. That's me being serious. Now, James, what was your best film of...
So he's coming back for your best.
Yeah, we'll do that in a bit. We'll do that.
Okay. I'm struggling to pick between three. So, because they're quite interchangeable, depending on what day it is, to be honest, how I'm feeling. I don't know, I'm just going to go with Dune as the top one, I think. Because as an all-rounder, it's just, I mean, visually beautiful. The soundtrack's fantastic.
Before you get on, just as a question, what were the other two that...
A Quiet Place 2 and Last Night in Soho.
That's it, two films I've not watched.
Yeah, I've not seen those two.
But A Quiet Place is supposed to be fantastic.
It's on a par with the first one. Some people have been I've talked to think it's better than the first one, but
I was surprised you said that. I was glad you said it because I was thinking where are they going to actually go with it? They did obviously have sequel potential, but it's do you need it? Because you already get the idea of a sequel from the end of the film.
Yeah, I was happy if they didn't. I would have been happy if they didn't do a sequel. And I thought, oh, please don't ruin it.
Yeah.
But for me, it was completely on a par with the first one. I'm not going to say one's better than the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just kept that whole that tension all the way through, and just that sort of fear of, I don't know, it just come across so well in that first one, and they continue it so well in the second one.
The fact that they're different films as well, different sort of genres, doesn't help in saying comparing films, for example. Whereas Justice League and Venom's quite simple because they're both based around superheroes and super things.
This was a sign of good sequels though, when there's reason for it, you don't have to do it, but when it's there, and especially then, if you're coming back with something like a different genre again, like just you saying that actually, Alien always comes to mind. I know people talk differently about it. You've got Alien, a horror film, basically, and then you've got Aliens, like an action film, and they both stand up perfectly in their own right. People see them separately, people see them whatever they want, but it's still filling that sequel role, but it's doing it in such a way that isn't just, let's just make the same film.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely stands on its own with that.
Yeah.
They do go with other throw in other sort of points. It's not just the same thing over and over again. We're on the run from these monsters sort of thing.
Yeah.
As long as there's a story to tell, there's a way to tell it.
Absolutely.
That's a good way of putting it, to be fair.
And the way they deal with all the characters thrown in, it's because it is just focused around the family in the first one, and then throwing those other characters in, you're like, oh, how's the dynamic going to work? But it does. They just absolutely nail it. The way everyone interacts with each other in a weird situation like that, it comes across. I don't know. They hit that sort of realistic thing for me, where it's that is exactly how people would react in that situation, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just comes across in that way to me.
You said your favourite film was Dune.
I know, but I've realised we talked about that, and now the more I think about it, I can talk more about that than Dune, because Dune, it was literally just, wow, this is pretty.
I think that's pretty what
sounds amazing.
They
also did that again. They did that thing. My favourite scene out of the whole film, where him and his mum are running out of that. They run into that jet thing.
Yeah.
And it's when he's trying to get the engine on, and that sense of that sense of fear of, oh god, what's going to happen? Yeah. It's you feel like you're actually there. That is one of those few moments where I've actually felt like I was in the film. Those glances back from him, and then swapping it around so it was as if you were looking at that thing. And the fact that no one runs out of that tunnel makes it more terrifying. Mm. If there had been one bolt, like a laser bolt or whatever, fly past, it would have completely lost the whole feeling of that scene.
Yeah.
So that tension, the building in that, Jesus, it was just, that was perfection to me, that was.
Even just that one thread of that comes back through all of the stuff. Even if you're just taking the soldiers, you're literally getting them on that planet and they're getting bathed in blood, and just all of that build up to then. You see them in action, but in that particular moment, it's just terror. That's all it is.
The storytelling of that film is fantastic from the actors.
The cast itself.
You
can't go wrong with that cast.
No, God no. But just the dialogue as well was one thing that really stood out. I said, like Venom, I said to you guys, you could watch the film without any dialogue, it still makes sense, and it's terrible. But with Dune, like, you have to listen to the dialogue, 'cause that's what carries the story forward. It's not action sequences. It's not.
That's the thing. There's not actually lots that goes on in it, really, when you look at it.
No.
And I'm quite glad that that's why they've done it as 2 parts and let it sort of breathe.
It's still a really long film as well. But
Exactly,
it
yeah.
doesn't feel long. When you
No,
watch
not at all.
Not if you're invested in it.
I was waiting for another half hour at least when that ended. I was like, I wasn't expecting it to end at that point. I was like, oh, fair enough. I was quite happy with that because I was like, it leaves it on that nice sort of edge now. I was like, where they're going.
Yeah.
So,
Have you read the books of it?
no, have you seen how big that thing is?
Well, as one of my friends at work said, he'd read the books, and that what happened is literally about the first 10 pages, if that, of the book. I'm thinking, oh my god, like,
Wow.
There's so much.
Because they did do sequels, and I know as soon as
I think
this one
it's
came
2
out, they were saying
2 books afterwards.
they'd be open to be doing more
He's-
than the actual just story of.
Yeah, he's got a plan apparently to do
They can
all
have
3
all
3 stories.
nice.
They're definitely doing part 2 to finish off Dune itself, but then the other 2 sequels, I don't know how he's going to tackle them. He'll do it great because every film he's done, like Blade Runner, what was it, 2049, didn't he? He did all that. That's one of the best things I've ever witnessed with my peepers.
Is it really? I've never
Honestly,
watched
one of
it.
the best things you'll ever watch.
Never
Yeah,
watched
it is a
it.
good film.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's one of those where it's supposed to be a big film, but I've never looked at it.
Yeah,
and
it's-
gone, I want to watch that.
And that was a weird thing because it was one of those ones again where this year is one of the best examples of it in general. But at that point, it was one of those films where the marketing, like the treatment of it, was just non-existent. Like,
Yeah.
basically, just like so half-assed, and then it's like, and I mean, so like Dune's a good example of this actually, but particularly with this year, it was just people weren't going to the cinema anyway, and it's just like, well, what's the difference? And like some people were like, it was tipping the balance of so many of these big films that happened in 2021. Were they gonna just be released to a streaming service? Were they gonna go to actually be released at cinema? And it was such like hanging in the balance for so long. But yeah, Blade Runner 2049 was the same sort of thing where there was no effort put into how it was being presented because it was a sequel, but it was its own film. So it's like, how are they going to draw people in? Most of it was just, oh yeah, it's a sequel, so don't bother coming to see this film. So what are you on about?
Do you want to get on to your worst film?
I can, yeah. No surprise to anyone, it's Eternals. Biggest waste of 2 hours of my life. 2.5, 2, 3 hours. Too long. It was too long.
To be fair, if you cut the first hour out, you'd be doing it a favour anyway, to be honest.
Do you know what? If you cut out all the scenes, which don't include like Kit Harington's character, because he's the only important one out of it all. Well, actually, Angelina was brilliant.
For a
She
good
was
way.
great for like the 5 minutes that she was in it. And that's about it.
For a
Really.
character that wasn't important in the story near enough at all,
Yeah.
he became one of the most important characters
Yeah.
of the film.
It was the hype of Kit Harington being it and the Black Knight sort of.
Everyone knew going in who he was.
Yeah,
that was a big
100%.
point of it, I think. 'Cause I think you enjoyed it if you didn't know. I think
Yeah.
people would have actually like, say they didn't like the film, say they weren't as invested, but say they didn't like the film, they would have latched on to him because that was almost the point of him being there. And then by the end, they'd have been like, right, I'm interested now, I want to be here. But everyone else who had the slightest bit of awareness of what was going on, you were instantly just, this is your anchor through this now.
It's the fact I literally sat there for that first hour, like, what is going on? What is the point? I'm just a bit lost at the minute.
It's overly convoluted.
Absolutely.
Oh my god, the introduction of the deviants. I don't get why they were in the film.
Again, I know I'm going to come like all sort of talking just about the visuals and stuff, but they were one of the most underwhelming. Yes, designs, but just treatment of a character, of a group of characters, because it's like I don't even have that much of a broad awareness of the source material, but like you go from like the slightest indications. Even general audiences are now getting confused with the attachment to like characters like Thanos and all this sort of snowballing of what this could mean.
Yeah.
people who haven't got the background of, oh, I know who this character is, I know who this character is, are going, okay, I've seen this big purple guy on screen. What's this meant to be now? And they're getting detached from it. And it's losing that traction. It's just
Yeah. I mean, we could sit here for hours, I think, talking about Eternals and how one, boring it is. Two, the deviance again, pointless. Three, the character that we most are excited about was in it for a maximum of 3 minutes, maybe 4.
But none of the actual main characters, just going off that, there's no effort to make them likeable.
No.
Is there really any? The only ones I liked was like what's her name, Athena and Gilgamesh. They were alright. I could get on with them for a bit.
Yeah, because they developed a story around them too.
Yeah.
The others were there. They developed a story around Athena and Gilgamesh.
And even then, for Gilgamesh, it was a case of your purpose is going to be very clear very soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he fulfilled that purpose, and it was obviously.
But it was also I felt a sort of touching moment when it did.
It was the best thing
because it was
that
that
get out of
yeah,
that situation,
100%.
The two main characters had the romance, just no chemistry at all.
No,
between
stiff as a board.
The whole thing, people even praising it before it came out, and I didn't really know, but they're just it was even the way it was getting described. They're just oh, it's a Marvel film. There's a love scene.
First Marvel love scene. It was
and literally, they barely touch each other for a bit of a sort of introduction.
Just to clarify, Tom's not asking for some hardcore sex scene from Marvel.
just some believable connection, and the fact that these were at least creatures that believed they were sentient. I don't know what they were getting at, but they have
That's another thing.
the sort of montage you seen leading up to all of that was one of the better parts of the film, and I'll probably get a lot of glares at that.
No, yeah,
But
I get what you're
It
saying.
sums up some of the best points that I would bring up about the film. But yeah, the actual believability of them getting to that point, it made it so much more damp then that the way they treated Icarus' character, and even his torment and ups and downs about how even he was wrestling with what he was doing. But anyway, back to that scene, the actual, again, the visual, it does come back to the visuals of it, but there are parts of this film, it was what was getting raised up at the start. It looks genuinely different. It looks stunning. Some of these shots are ridiculous.
Yeah, the big wide shots are.
But they
really,
just literally
really
just
beautiful.
go, here you go, let's move on.
Yeah.
Here you go, and it's just they use for just a cheap effect.
And I know we talked about Dune with not a lot actually happening. This film had a lot seemingly happen, but nothing actually happened at all.
Yeah.
There was a lot of breathtaking wide shots that didn't hold any purpose or development to the story.
Tricked me in the trailer because I saw the first trailer and was like, whatever, and then the second trailer, little bits like that sprinkled in, and it sort of caught me in. And I was like, oh, it actually looks pretty cool. And then the actual final product was so underwhelming.
Underwhelming is the word, yeah.
Ridiculously.
What were you going to make a point?
Yeah, it's just about the chemistry between the two characters. There's a moment in the film where it would have felt so much more heartfelt if you believed their romance.
Yeah.
It's just everything falls flat in this film because the characters are stiff. A lot of them aren't really likeable.
They're not needed after them either, are they?
No, they're just in there for comic book purposes.
To be fair, favourite character, the 3 saving graces. I mean, if you click on our website, there is a review on there of the Eternals. It's not a very good one. And it's very short because of this. But the 2 things that were pointed out in it were the positives were Kit Harington's character, Black Knight, and Icarus Turncoat's story, because that introduced a massive twist, and it was something then sort of that built traction. It was like, oh, okay, I
At
guess
least to
this
give
is
you a
something.
reason to dislike him then, not just, oh, he's terrible.
Yeah,
he's just a
he's too
horrible
cheesy.
person.
He's a Marvel Superman that Thank you,
Just
Ajax.
immediately, so, or that bit on the ship at the beginning where it's just like, she says something about, oh, doesn't it look beautiful looking at Earth? And he goes, I'm Icarus. And it's like, that's, like, you got all the game there, kid.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, it's great chat, this man.
And it's just straight away, I was like, God, you're awful.
And the third one, Druig, I don't know about anyone else.
Yes.
I liked Druig's character. I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah.
And when he were introduced, his arrogance and his cocksure attitude was brilliant. I loved it.
That was one of the best examples of one of those scenes where they did actually let it stop for a minute and just let you watch it. Was the I know the name, but I'm going to butcher it. But the South American city, and it's like the 1500s when. Is it Spanish are invading or something? But that's when he. That's when he detaches from. That whole thing was where it was like I said to you. I think it was. It was when I realised I was actually watching it. I realised I was actually in it. Whereas before I was just sort of like passive in what was going on in screen. It wasn't that I was thinking it was good or bad. It was just that at the point where I was actually in the movie and I was like paying attention.
That's that first bit before that.
And that was centred around him really, because that was the whole point of
the fact as well. We're saying there's a whole. We don't know timings, but a whole potential hour before that moment is. I genuinely, other than the cheesy moments that I've just quoted, that we've just quoted, I can't remember much about what happens for the first half an hour to an hour, because
no, it's just. Is it flashbacks?
I'm pretty confident it's a story of what they did and how they helped the human race.
Yeah.
And then there was this big argument, we can't get involved. Yeah, no, you said that in one line at the start of the film, which explained why you didn't get involved.
How many times they say the word deviance as well in that first bit?
For something that's useless and pointless to the film. They talk about it a lot. They try and ram it in your face. Deviants are important.
It's because they have everyone. There's not really a villain in this film, is there? Really?
No.
What's the Arisham?
Yeah,
I'd say he's the main villain.
He's just sort of, they know about him. He's just in the background, but he's never really there.
Yeah, but I think it's the intentions of him and him being an imposing figure on these Eternals, the most powerful beings in the universe.
Conflict between, I don't know.
I just feel like if anyone's the villain, it's him, because he then, when we find out he created the deviants, it's another. Oh, okay. And then Icarus as well.
I don't know.
I want to dwell on a lot of this, but I also don't want to make things too predictable. So not to say like move along, but basically there'll probably be another ample opportunity to talk about all this stuff that's getting us angry.
Yeah.
Yes, there will. Right, should we move on to Tom before I burst the blood vessel? Best film. Let's go positive now.
Best film.
Christ.
Now, going on from James, I was again going to say Dune, and I was going to comment on your effort you put into trying to pronounce Dune, because everyone with pretty much any English accent is going to say June.
June, I thought it was June. I wasn't sure when he said Dune.
And then everyone else is just realising we just sound like we're saying the month.
Yeah.
Yes.
So however you want to pronounce it, I'd always settled on that as my number one, mainly because I haven't actually seen that many films, but I think I could have seen a lot of films this year. It was probably going to be my number one. There is an what would you call it? There's an option I'm really sad I missed out on, but I think that is another topic. I mean, I will speak about Dune a little bit more, but you have covered a lot. We have covered a lot, because I think we all loved it.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Dilly.
And I think one of the biggest examples of that, again, talking about the marketing, that was a bit shaky, because you just wondered where it was going to go at first, because...
You talking about Dune?
Yeah, this time, because it was a case of, was it going to be...
Get it right, I love the month.
Two different films.
It was a case of, were we actually going to see this in cinema after all this talk of this movie being made? And that sort of came wrapped up with when Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, because that came straight to, that was one of the first things for HBO. Yeah, so like, I think there was that worry that it was going to go straight to that, but then they were just like, no, like people are going to cinema, we're putting it on.
Films are so much better in the cinema. The first viewing is
100%. You don't have the washer going on in the background. You don't have air dryers on. People having showers and talking.
You just have to put up with.
Well, your PS5 sound like it's going to take off. Other gaming things are available. I'm not sure how this works, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not for that important.
You're sharing your opinions on all of this anyway. So, what you do miss out on when you're in the comfort of your own home is a couple standing up about the middle of the movie and just deciding to leave.
Yeah.
I was tempted to run after them, drag them back in by their ankles, just to
I
to
think
get
I
them
can
to
guess what your favourite film is.
commit. What besides Dune?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you two watch it together?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair,
Together.
it was down as number 2, but it was last night in Soho.
Nice.
I really want to watch that.
Did
film,
you
but I didn't
did you
get
not
to
get to watch it? No.
I will when it comes out.
From them two talking about it, it sounds fantastic.
I've definitely lost my trail on Dune, so I'm going to try and not do that here. Yeah, I think it's had a lot of sort of mixed opinions, but mainly because I think if you were going to go see this film, you'll go see it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of other people, no one was bothered. The thing that interested me was the fact that it was clearly getting marketed as almost a horror film. Or to general audiences, people might have thought, oh, this is a horror film. But it was quite clear that it was just a creative choice. It was basically going to be a thriller, but
Yeah.
it was mainly going to be even something different than that.
Well, from watching the trailer and seeing the trailer in cinema, and from my own choice, it did seem like, okay, here's this young girl, and then she's having nightmares about this girl that existed. So it did sort of look like it was advertised as a horror film.
Yeah,
and by the sounds of it, it wasn't.
Yeah, I think that was a good choice because it might, just on the slim chance it was going to lure people in that wouldn't actually go see it, because it was a tough idea to try and sell to people.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good choice, but anyone that figured that it wasn't was basically just picking up on some of the choices that say Edgar Wright was making, which he did speak about. He was completely open about his influences, but I think unless you were aware of that and understood what he was trying to get at, it didn't really mean anything. But that didn't detract from you actually going to see it and enjoying the film. And I think that's what really brought it back, was at the heart of it. Quite a lot of it I was surprised by was the fact that it was just it just had that sort of like nice British charm that people will talk about mainly in stuff like we're only famous for like rom-coms or something.
Yeah, well,
but you get like
I think.
Yeah, and you'll get like say an American view of British film just being basically based on those kind of films. But it definitely has that, which isn't a surprise with stuff like Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead.
Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah, the trilogy as a whole, obviously, but then all his other work, everyone sort of expects certain things from him. That's also why I think it's got a lot of critique from people that expect these certain things.
Yeah.
I think rather than just accepting this is the kind of film that he was inspired by, this is the kind of film he wants to make, there's also a lot more than that on display.
Yeah, I think talking about the expecting thing, far too many people go into a film expecting something to happen instead of watching it with an open mind and then being flexible to whatever does happen and reacting on that. It's a case of, like a film that we're going to make a video about. Yeah. If something didn't happen in that film, everyone would have judged it and gone, well, this is terrible.
It all goes.
Well, it happened anyway.
And
it was not very good.
Yeah.
No guesses to what the film is. But yeah, like going into it, I would have expected it to be a horror film, and then watching it, I'd have gone, interesting.
Yeah,
I probably found it, or probably been more disinterested because it wasn't what I was expecting, sort of thing.
So I think that's where it's lost. It's lost people on the side of general audiences. It's lost people on the side of anyone who's going to be pretentious and think they know what a certain filmmaker is going to do because this is what they are like. But I say with both, that sort of brings in what I was going to say about Dune was the build-up and that anticipation, the fact that a lot of these films this year were dragged out, were released later than they were going to be.
Yeah.
Definitely built up that anticipation, and in the end, when it paid off, really helped that excitement and the enjoyment in the actual film.
Yeah.
So I know that's like obscured some of my views of certain films this year, because it's either basically lifted you up and then it's carried you through because it's actually worked as a good movie, or you've been building onto this movie for 3 years and then you've just been dropped from a height.
Yeah.
So last night Soho did almost the opposite of that.
No.
Because it was a contained sort of amount of, this is what you get in, and if you're wearing that, it's fine. We're not trying to cater to anyone. There was that slight, obviously, this looks like a horror film. That was it.
Yeah. How was it Matt Smith?
Yeah.
How was he? Because I really like him as an actor.
Yeah, and he's like, I mean, he's one of those sort of, there are like screen stealers in this film.
Yeah.
But he's the one out of all of them where I wouldn't necessarily have to describe it that way, because I think it's different than that. I would just relish the fact that he's just cast as a villain either way. Like, say a villain, it's a case of like, when he's playing a character you're not meant to like. I haven't even seen that many examples, but he needs to keep getting cast as that kind of role because he just does it so well. And again, that sort of anchor sort of leading you through where you get convinced by the simplest bits of his performance, where you just led along the story.
Yeah.
So that even these things that might happen, these twists that might get predictable.
Sorry.
And there were like, there was twists, but it's like a case of if they landed, fair enough. But if you predicted them, I don't find that it actually lessened the enjoyment of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he helped a lot with that, like his performance, because it was understated. There wasn't too much to it. It served its purpose, but especially then contrasting that to the more extravagant, over the top performances you might get from certain parts of how they treated Anya Taylor-Joy's character, and then again, I've mentioned this, but the review on the website, which is worth looking at.
What a fantastic look, Tom. That was seamless. I did say we weren't professionals, guys, by the way. I don't know if you can tell.
I'm definitely not.
If you got always give it a peek. That's about it, really.
But yeah, so like the contrast of that being someone like, say, Diana Rigg, which her performance completely flips that on his head, but both serve exactly what they're trying to do. Point being with all of it is the fact that I was going to be really picky about it and really biased towards it, was because it was using a style I really liked, inspired by a type of cinema that I really like, and it's always just going to fuel an obsession with Anya Taylor-Joy that is not going to do me any good in life.
I'm glad you could share that with us, and for the 3 people that might watch this.
So yeah, so that's basically the best way of summing that up, and it's helped me clarify Dune as like probably shared number 1 spot, because it keeps raising Last Night in Soho to a top spot.
Is your worst film the same as James's?
I was gonna carry on further.
You can say the Eternals because me and Matt double teamed Venom,
but it was more the fact that, again, I mean, we've said quite a lot, because I've managed to like clarified that the stuff that was in my head wasn't just me.
Yeah, no, it was 3 other people at least.
And I think we've said it about the Deviants, but particularly they had such a wealth of characters and story to build on. And
Which is, to be honest, which is hard in itself.
terrifying.
You've got
someone to do.
10 main characters that you need to focus on. You've got Arishem, which is 11.
Yeah.
You've got the Deviant, the main Deviant as well, which is 12.
Yeah.
You've got Kit Harington, which is then 13.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
And
a
that's
case
why he
of...
landed so well as a performance, because it was just, it served its purpose of what it was meant to be.
I think it goes
regardless of your connection to it.
It goes back to what you said about, is it Gilgamesh?
Yeah.
He had a purpose.
Yeah.
We enjoyed that purpose.
Look, admittedly it was simple, but it worked.
But it
because
was
some
the
of the
purpose.
others really didn't work.
No, and it was Druids.
Didn't have a purpose.
No, but I think that's what we like Druid, because his purpose was to go against
Yeah.
leadership, was to sort of show us that what they're doing isn't correct.
Yeah.
Sort of have a mind for himself. I was like, okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Then just the rest of them, just Sprite, you're an
Oh.
annoying
Worse.
character. Just leave everyone alone, please. Thank you.
Also, just a little side note. Surely some giant celestial ripping through the crust of the earth would break the earth.
Yeah.
They just leave it like it's nothing. Like the amount of tsunamis and earthquakes that would have caused after that. Don't just stand there on the beach going, "Oh, we did it, lads."
Well, it came from the core, so that means the core would probably
Also,
now be
yeah.
unstable.
It doesn't spin properly anymore.
No,
That's not how it works.
probably might not even spin at all.
I know it's a superhero film and that stuff like that's all out the window, but I
No,
really struggle now.
No. Because you
Because the
still
science
need
of it.
you still need some realism
Yeah. If you're trying
in
to-
superhero films,
You got-
because if you then just go and do whatever you want,
Mhm.
it takes away from the fact that you have superheroes there.
Yeah.
Because our role is to be puny, pointless beings that can't look after ourselves. That's our role. So we need that realism
You need
in
to-
there.
You need to establish what your world is and say if you've got a character like Thor who's a god, you need to establish what his weaknesses are, what he can do, and apply the story to that, because if you start making up rules that he can do this and this and this when he can't, when
And
as
soon as you go
it's
against it.
seemingly impossible to do, or he's not been shown to, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but you need I don't want to go back to the Zack Snyder's Justice League.
But you're getting to.
It's a good example. That all of the characters in that film are basically gods. So the world establishes that they just live amongst humans, and you need to know how the world would react to that, and what if something were to happen, like a world-end event, how they would react, and you can't just make up new rules as you go along with certain characters, and that the Eternals just makes up storylines and stuff that just wouldn't apply to what they've already done in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
It
I like
jumps
that.
on that opportunity to the fact that it won't have that criticism. It basically says we've got all this free reign. We're not actually going to do a hell of a lot with it, but what we are going to do is basically just not pay attention to some of these established conditions that people have got used to.
Yeah.
And then but coming back to the realism point, you've got fantasy, sci-fi, whatever. The whole point of them, when you've got that perspective of realism to go off, it enhances them.
Yeah.
It's so if you've got good sci-fi, it's making you literally question existence or something. But you throw in some our current understanding of a black hole or something. It works.
Yeah.
And then the same with fantasy. It's okay, how is this? So a society or something, you've got a human, and then they're living in a world populated by orcs, dwarves. How are these people living in the same world?
Yeah.
How is the simplest thing going down to the shops? How is that going to be different for this hulking creature, or is it different for this dwarf? It's just a stupid thing, but it's you establish a point of perspective to go off, gives you that framework to work on.
Yeah.
Your believability's sorted.
Yeah.
You're in it.
Yeah.
As soon as you throw that out, it's gone. So something like that, a lot of people still, because of how they treat Marvel movies, but superheroes in general, thinking it's just like a type of film. They just go, oh yeah, it's meant to be daft, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, how is that a good enough reason to just
I'm fed up of people going, well, it's Marvel, they just do what they want.
Yeah.
I think Marvel was starting to think that as well now a little bit, from how their storylines progress and what they include in films. I'm pretty confident they're sat there thinking, well, now we've opened up this, we can do this and whatever we please, and people are going to watch it because we're Marvel. We've had a successful 12 years, 100%, some of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah.
But now it's starting to get annoying to the point where it's the same regurgitated stories, it's the same, oh well, we've done this because we can do this, this is it now.
I feel like they know that though, because they're trying things differently. The Shang-Chi didn't feel like it doesn't feel like another Marvel film in terms of that it has the martial arts aspect to it.
Yeah.
But it kind of follows the same sort of pattern.
Yeah.
But it feels different. The Eternals is completely different, like tone and theme of the film.
Yeah.
Spider-Man feels completely different from the other two Spider-Man films that came out in terms of tone, theme, action scenes, and they're just trying to mix it up a bit. I feel like.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And I
I'm
think
a big
that's sort of
continue
like,
to try and mix it.
yeah.
And I think, to be fair, that's probably what makes the Marvel films at the minute quite hit and miss. The fact that they are probably trying to try things.
Yeah,
I
they're
think
not
they
rolling
know
on that
it
new ground.
comes across. I mean, like we said, they're trying stuff out, but it's I don't know.
It's not coming across.
It's not coming across in a nice way, is it?
No.
Like, because it's this like, oh, that was a bit of that. Oh, hang on.
Some things are to
yeah.
me, but some things are falling really flat.
I appreciate that they're trying to go more celestial and otherworldly, but do it better.
Yeah, I mean
There's your message.
they're in such a good place to try out these new things.
100%. Kevin Feige, 100%.
Yeah, he strikes me as someone who's like paranoid enough to.
He's got some
Say that
bloke.
before.
He employs someone to just watch every video that
Yeah.
slanders Marvel and go, right, kill them.
I was saying that he's literally tipped the balance now. Like, I think before, even people that didn't really care about Marvel, if you heard about it and figured stuff out, or if you're actually into understanding how that was done, you'd have been like, okay, he's gone from basically a studio that would have been non-existent
Yeah,
to turn it into what it is.
yeah.
There's now gone to the point where like, oh, he just wants to do stuff for himself, and oh, it's just money making. So even whether you like Marvel or not, you've got the same opinion.
Yeah.
So I mean that basically sums up Eternals really for me. Is the fact that
Get a short sum up.
Yeah.
sliced in.
It's not took us very long to get there, but it's not very good.
Is that promise of it being different, of it being better, just because they were really attached to that idea of getting, well, basically like, it was just again this direct conversation where it's just like, oh, let's get a director who's had some success and get some interest behind them, does things a certain way, let's literally just jump on that to get people's interest. And I feel like it's then a disservice to the creative team who want to make the movie, because all they're doing is bringing what they can to it, and then the director, maybe the director was completely happy with what came out, but it's either or, it didn't work.
Which would have done if you were blind. Or deaf.
Yeah, because all the stuff that looked good,
Yeah.
they didn't
Deaf's
care
probably
about.
the
They
best
just
one,
went,
yeah.
let's just move along.
Shall we end on a
Yeah.
positive?
Yes, you should. Yes, you should.
My best film watched in 2021 was Tick Tick Boom, and I'm pretty confident none of the three around this table have watched it.
Can't be doing with musicals.
Almost
Sorry.
did, but
I do need
That's
to.
as
I've
close.
heard a lot of things
Yeah.
about it.
It's my favourite film of 2021, and it definitely goes up there to one of the best films I've watched.
yeah.
Purely, there's a review on our website. Purely because, I mean, we talked about realism. It's possibly one of the realist films I've watched, and I don't know if that comes from the storyline of it being about Jonathan Larson's life, because it holds real relationships and real dilemmas, and it basically is the downfall of this person's life who seems to have a brilliant girlfriend, brilliant friends. He's a aspiring playwright, a musical writer, when actually everything sort of crumbles around him. So you got then that sense of isolation. The realism in it's fantastic. It's one of those films, the first line of the review, and I stand by it, it's one of those films that you watch and then you think, I'm going to text someone now because I've not spoken to them for ages. I'm going to kickstart something now. Because it is that sort of film that motivates. You can relate to it so much. And Andrew Garfield is amazing.
You can't follow it.
No, not at all. His delivery, his acting, the dialogue, even little mannerisms he does. From watching clips of Jonathan Larson to Andrew Garfield, he picks up on the little mannerisms and the little gestures and facial expressions, and even the hair. I don't know if you've seen a picture of the two.
No.
Just the hair itself, how he does it, looks very similar. And you just think, fair play. Andrew Garfield had piano lessons and singing lessons. And you just think, that's incredible. Songs, I know you said you can't deal with musicals.
We're coming from that,
Songs are brilliant. And they're not brilliant in the sense that, they're catchy, they're really good, but there's actually meaning behind them. I don't know if you heard the first song.
I've caught that chunk of it, basically.
If you look at the lyrics and listen to the lyrics of every single song, there is the message behind it. There is that explaining the character or explaining the dilemma. There's one where he's swimming, which I think is my favourite, because the song describes every single little detail that's going on in his head. He's swimming, he's talking about the shower, the water dripping off his elbow, how to swim, looking at the people, and it just sort of shows the chaos that's going on in his head, and it's a fantastic way to put it into something you'd understand, or you can listen to and think, Jesus Christ, it's catchy, but also it's a perfect way to describe when you're flustered, stressed, and you've got so many things on your mind, how we're feeling, because all the little details and the little parts we pick up on, like it's genuinely incredible.
I'm not massive on musicals, but musicals that have where the songs fit the story and the characters makes it so much better than just throwing in a song just because it's a musical. You need a song. You have a song for about 10 minutes before a song in. Oh.
And the most accessible version of them, and the most overdone version of them, is all your animated Disney films. Kids will grow up with the same sort of stuff, and again that would be that everyone will talk about Marvel now, but obviously they did just regurgitate some stuff, and it was just taking a simple starting point but just making the same kind of thing. But again, that's a good example where you've just got some great songs and then you've just got some useless songs where it's literally just to make stupid, catchy, cheap film that just goes, here we go. But I'm not going to talk about Frozen.
Please don't talk about Frozen in the same sentence as Tick Tick Boom. Thank you very much. I mean, well, obviously it's my opinion, but I love it so much.
I will get around to watching
it. Lin-Manuel Miranda, when he first come into film,
he's getting a lot of attention, right?
Yeah, because he's doing such a fantastic job. I mean, I watch this and I think, okay.
Fair enough.
For right, it's justified because it is brilliant. And like I say, there's so many messages in the film, whether that be relationships, friendships, personal dilemmas. Like there's a song in it that finishes with questions, but all the questions are things that we probably sit there at some point and go, why on earth do we do that? And it just sort of, Jonathan Larson wanted to create musicals that held messages, that held reasons that people listen to and think, okay, I'll make myself better, or they hold actual meaning to them. And I think with this film, Lin-Manuel Miranda's done a fantastic job of bringing that to life, because it was actually a musical that he performed on Broadway, and I think he's done a brilliant job. The narration as well was brilliant. It flips between musical and his life. It's a nice way of portraying this character and what he's going through.
And that comes back to both for what you said about musicals. Matt said it a bit more eloquently than you did, but it's the same point of it's when it's framed that certain way. You can do a musical, and it's just a musical. It's just all it is literally just songs, and it's just moving along because it's just. But you'd have to be so good to tell a story like that. But you can almost, some people are going to watch this and not even consider it as a musical.
Well, 100%. And it annoys me as well. Some people watch a musical and go, that song was catchy. Well, did you listen to it? Did you actually listen to the lyrics? Because when you ask them about it, there's songs here that represent his thought process, to represent what he's going through, relationships, where his life gets derailed, things like that. You listen to the lyrics, you think, okay, yeah, this song has a purpose. Yeah, it drives the story forward. Where other people are watching, go, oh, that was catchy.
Yeah.
And my sister, for example. but yeah, no, brilliant. Tick Tick Boom. If you've not watched it, go and watch it. I'd highly recommend it to everybody, gentlemen. If you find a spare.
I mean, that's
2 hours.
that sums up 2021 because there's just. You could have watched a lot of films this year. You've missed a lot more.
100%. Yeah. Right, so that brings us to the close of our best and favourite. All we're going to do now is basically do a film ranking of the films that we've watched. We won't spend too long on this because we've talked about a lot of what we've seen this year. We're basically going from best to worst. We're going to list the films that we've seen and where they would end up in our ranking system. We'll start with you, Matthew, since we started you before. All right, just so from number 1 is the best to whatever number to the worst.
Yeah. So number 1, obviously, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Number 2, Spider-Man No Way Home. Number 3.
You're gonna hate me.
Yeah.
You might hate all 3 of us, to be fair.
Really?
Carry on. Yeah.
Oh fuck. Number 3, Dune. Number 4, The Suicide Squad. Number 5, Shang-Chi. Number 6, Free Guy.
Ooh, hold on. You'd put Shang-Chi below the Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
Okay.
For my personal enjoyment.
No, but yeah, obviously. Cross the line. Yeah, carry on.
I can explain why if you want to. Number 6, Free Guy. Number 7, The Power of the Dog, the Netflix film. Number 8, Black Widow. Number 9, Eternals. Number 10, Army of the Dead. 11, Cruella. 12, Venom Let There Be Carnage.
I need to watch Cruella.
Apparently not bothered to know that.
Yeah, to be fair, if it's 11 out of 12, we might call it a day, but...
Yeah, some people might like it, but some elements are alright. It's just, they tried to make her more of a hero than a villain. I didn't like that. And because she's obvious,
yeah.
she skins like animals, and then they try and make her seem like you can relate with her, and I don't know.
There's a really cheap way of doing that in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Some of it lands great,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
I understand relatable villains, but
Yeah.
you can't try and make her justify.
She's already made her bed, she needs to lie in it.
I think
You know what I
it's
mean? You
better
can't really
We can make
remake
a
it.
relatable villain, but they're still. It's not ever hidden
Don't agree
how
with-
horrific
Yeah.
their way of going about some things are.
Yeah.
And even the stupid stuff, like your Marvel villains. Yeah, exactly. But like you take someone like Thanos and stuff, you know it's dramatic, you know it's stupid, but it has enough where you just go, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
It's just.
Okay. I've got 8 altogether.
Yeah.
So the first 3 are all interchangeable. I'm just putting as I've written them down. So we've got Dune as number 1 because
Not a month.
not the month. Quiet Place 2 second, and Last Night in Soho as third. But yeah, swap them as you please. Fourth I put Black Widow, because it's my favourite out of the Marvel ones. And then Shang-Chi pretty close behind it.
So can I ask Matt a question, please?
Yes.
Did you like Black Widow?
I thought it was average.
Would you put it above Shang-Chi?
No.
I mean, you didn't.
I was just, cause to me, they both just did exactly what they both
Can't remember.
opposite.
You can't care what Matt's put. How dare you?
They both did exactly what they needed to do for me.
Yeah.
Like we were going to get some sort of origin story for her eventually. Shang-Chi was just an origin story to introduce it, but
Yeah.
I like some of the other characters they threw in through those films, like Yelena and Red Guardian. Absolutely love them too.
I like them too, but I feel like Red Guardian's underutilised in that film.
Yeah,
He's
but I
there
like-
for comedic value.
yeah, absolutely.
Not for anything else.
Yeah. And that comes back to that whole thing we were talking about there.
That's a whole other video that we can probably muster up. So, carry number 6.
Yeah, so yeah, 5 for Shang-Chi. 6, I'm going to say Suicide Squad, because I'm not as big on DC stuff, but that they're starting to pull me back in now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm there. That was after that first one. the other year. That was just horrendous.
Oh,
First
God.
Suicide Squad,
Yeah, that was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So to see it done like this and actually, I mean, James,
Done
anything
right, wasn't it?
James Gunn touches is gold really in it now at the minute.
But it's sick.
But it is sick. It was okay. I'd forgotten it even existed till the other day.
Yeah.
Someone reminded me that it was last year.
Yeah.
Then number 7, I've got No Way Home because it was exactly what I expected was going to happen,
Yeah.
and it was not what I wanted to happen in a Spider-Man film. But hey ho,
We've got a whole video on that coming.
You just wait and see.
Coming your way.
Oh.
Good luck.
Yeah, and then number 8 for obvious reasons is Eternals
Nice.
because just
Shit.
stop.
Tom.
Coming out some low numbers, which is why it's good it's ending on me. I only watched 7 films this year. I know we had the whole debate on what was my top, but I will say Dune was the top. Last Night in Soho takes 2nd place. The Suicide Squad is number 3. And
Nice.
And I know the rest of my list are Marvel films, so
You
I
also
think-
put Suicide Squad above Shang-Chi.
I think anyone with a passing sort of meeting of me is aware that that's a fairly big thing for me to put films above, or even put a DC film above.
Well,
Marvel.
yeah.
Blasphemous. But
And really, it probably then gets explained by my other 4, which would probably be, I say probably,
yeah.
because the 4 have been all over the place for a long time. I do want to say No Way Home, Shang-Chi, Black Widow, Eternals. That's how I finished my list.
It's the same
Yeah.
ranking I gave to the Marvel films.
And it could go on a lot more, but the simple sort of fact is when you've got something like Shang-Chi that at the time, in the instant and the excitement of watching it, of just that pure excitement of, yes, it's actually a fresh story, it's an origin story that we're getting. That immediate time afterwards, you thought, I've genuinely saw a bit of something else from them that I didn't expect. But then after a bit of that time passed, you realise, okay, it's just because it's an origin story, and we haven't had that really for a while. Contrasting then to say something like Black Widow, where it's a standalone, it's a separate story, but that again was built up to this standard of thinking that it was going to be something that was going to diverge from the expectations of what Marvel were doing.
Mm.
So with things like that in Eternals, they really didn't.
Mm.
They didn't deliver on that promise of offering something more. Not that Spider-Man No Way Home did much more than that, but that's
I'd
just
say
a
that
few
actually,
little personal
yeah.
attachments in that movie, not the expected ones, that put it above the other Marvel films this year.
Right. I've changed mine 3 times in the last 30 seconds. So this is what I currently have in my head from discussing it. 1, Tick Tick Boom, masterpiece. 2, Dune. 3, I've just changed to the Suicide Squad after re-evaluating everything.
Peer pressure.
Yeah, pretty much. 4, Shang-Chi. 5, Spider-Man No Way Home. 6 was James Bond, No Time to Die.
That's what I wanted to miss.
Good film, just a bit pretty predictable. It's James Bond. There's not much more to say. It's become its own genre over the years, isn't it? It doesn't really match or go to anything. 7, Free Guy. I can't remember the film.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't really have much of an impression on me.
I thought it was good.
I was really keen
Yeah.
to watch it. It was one of the only films this year where I was actually had it in my head. Yes, I'm keen to go and watch it.
Yeah, I can't remember that. Can't remember what happened. 8 was Encanto. Watched that the other day.
Right. Was that a Disney film?
Yeah. That's what needs to be said on that.
Okay.
9, Black Widow.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Black Widow below the film you've just disregarded.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also disregard Black Widow completely.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, I like Yelena. I like
Of course.
Red Guardian for the comedic value. what they did to Taskmaster was an absolute disgrace.
They're just going to retcon it in 3 years
To
anyway,
Marvel.
aren't they now?
I bloody hope so,
The
because
CGI, the CGI was sickness.
atrocious what they did to that character. Shame.
Yeah, I agree.
10 was Raya and the Last Dragon.
That's another
Disney film.
excited for.
I love an animated Disney film.
Yeah.
11 was Eternals.
Clearly not.
12 was Venom Let There Be Carnage. And then I forgot I watched Justice League. So I can't really put that in anywhere because I've not had time to think about it.
That's
But
it sounds like it needs.
I think it would be 3, I think, and then it knock everything down more, to be fair. Third best film I've watched. But yeah, but that's hard, and I'm not going to go through it again. Right, all I'm going to do now is, all we're going to do now is go through one film that we are excited for in 2022 this year, okay? It's going to be a very short answer. It will be the film and one sentence why, and then we will wrap up the video.
One.
So, one film, all at
I
one.
wrote down a few.
Yeah, just one.
Okay.
One film you're looking forward to in
Well, if
2022.
you've got to pick one, it's going to be The Batman for me. I just think that film looks like it's going to be amazing. I just think the tone, what they're going for, the trailers they've shown, the director, Matt Reeves, I know he's good in this sort of genre. I just think, because he did the Planet of the Apes trilogy, didn't he?
Yeah.
That tone fits Batman's character.
They literally
to a
said
T.
he described it like Caesar as basically a Batman story. I would swear he's done that,
He might have done.
and I don't know where I've heard it. And whoever said it, if it's someone that's told it me, they've got credit for actually informing me on that.
Go on.
My one film is The Batman. It just looks incredible. There's reports that it is 2 hours and 55
It's
minutes
literally
long.
good.
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
I want it to be longer because it looks
Yeah.
tremendous. I think Robert Pattinson's going to be amazing.
Yep.
I think the villains are going to be superb, and the Riddler's
Zoe.
actually going to get the credit that he deserves. And I'm happy they've gone with the darker tone because the Dark Knight trilogy is fantastic. That was dark, literally. And I feel like this film will be the same.
I'm going to have to agree with both of you because for the first time in probably since the Dark Knight films, because they were sort of happening before the MCU,
Yeah.
this is the first time I've actually been more excited for a DC film
Yeah.
than the next few Marvel films.
Yeah,
Because
100%.
yes, Doctor Strange, there's a lot of holding on that, but with the way the MCU's gone this past year, I ain't got much faith in it at the minute.
The reports as well.
Yeah, my excitement's went.
So, yeah, and all these things that they're saying might happen, I'm like, just don't.
Yeah, stop it now.
We've just had 3 Spider-Man for Christ's sake. Like, I don't want another 3 Doctor Stranges. So Batman is winning because I've not actually been excited for a DC film.
Nice.
For a long
Tom,
time.
it's going to be a full house.
Oh no, it was literally my second, but
What's first?
it would be because for the exact same reasons.
Yeah.
Because again, and yeah, I'm sure it's literally just got announced as the 2 hour 50.
Yeah, longest DC.
one, isn't it?
Batman film, sorry. What's
Yeah,
the other one?
the one I'm excited for is The Northman. It's a film from Robert Eggers, and all I've seen by him is The Witch. He did The Lighthouse, which obviously got a lot more attention, which I'm still going to see. And yeah, even from the cast, like the cast is the way to just appeal to any audience you like. Like you've got like Alexander Skarsgård as the main character, but then you've got Anya Taylor-Joy, Ethan Hawke, Nicole Kidman, Willem Dafoe, Bjork.
Oh yeah.
Christ alive.
God knows how many
saw
other
the trailer
people.
for that the other day. It does look good.
And that's just one of the easiest ways to
It's
describe
like
this
inside
people.
film, isn't it?
But yeah, it's like a, and he's it seems like his work, and he's clearly just like really just artsy with the way he just sees everything. But he seems to really get across like a specific vision for what he's doing. Because after watching The Witch, I heard about Lighthouse, and then I actually saw bits from it and thought, I was expecting the same kind of film. And I don't even have the same kind of film because The Witch is one of my favourite films. But the fact it was something different, and then this again looks like it's completely becoming its own thing.
Nice. So, Batman,
The Northman, but Batman.
the Northman, but Batman. So sort of full house. Right. So that brings us to the end of our video. I hope it was relatively enjoyable. If you didn't like it, No one cares. So, remember, we've got a website and an Instagram that will be tagged at the end of this video. Please give them a look. We're not expecting anything to happen from them. They're just something interesting for us. There's written reviews on there of a variety of films that may interest you and offer a different perspective, because they're completed by all four of us, but you don't know who's completed them. So there'll be various different perspectives on there. Anything to add, boys?
Tell us what your favourite film and least favourite film of the year were in the comments. Yeah, don't do that because we won't read them. We're not going to read them. I've got better things to do than that.
If
A job is one.
If there are any bad comments, you know you're just going to end up setting me on them anyway.
Yeah, and you don't want that.
Yeah.
You've
When
seen
the
that-
score gets going.
You've seen how I talk about the stupidest little detail.
That's the one sentence. You gave me a novel. Oh, we got there. Right. We've been Lost the Plot. Thank you for watching this video, or as I always say, accidentally clicking on it. It's an extra view. Thank you very much. See you in the next one.
Bye.
I'm shaking like a shitting dog.